think I don't want to say I have given up, because that would be, I don't want to be pessimistic, but we've been pushing for this, for a very long time. And now the bill that was originally designed, to around direct elections for additional seats reserved for women. Now there's a new proposal, the Electoral College model, and that's what this topic is about this morning. The Electoral College model, is this a new path for women's representation? And I'm so glad that we have the ladies here to really, really dissect what this truly means for us. Some people say that the bill would be more politically acceptable and it would improve the chances of the bill being passed. That's a special seats bill being passed ahead of the future elections. Some other people are like, are we really sure that this model would favor us in some way? Would it really advance inclusion? These are the questions that we're going to be asking our guests this morning. So I'm going to start with the basics. I'm going to start with Ambassador George Oregon. What exactly is the Electoral College model, and why is it being proposed under the special seats bill?
Thank you very much, Fumi. I will quickly pass on soon to Nkiru, because Plaque has a really good paper.
Yes.
That breaks this down. But I mean, maybe I should share from a lay person's point of view.
Yes.
Before the lawyers and the people who understand the matter more complex come in. So in summary, as you said, we have been pushing for a temporary special measure that will ensure that we have more women who are politically represented, all right, in our legislature specifically. Now, typically, we had expected that process will happen through direct elections, okay, meaning that however these women, emerged within the party, when they were put forward by all parties, then there would be an actual direct election where people go and vote. If, for example, 5 parties, 8 parties have put forward women candidates, then people will actually go and vote and say, oh no, I want to vote for this party, not party X, not party Y, right? And they are all female candidates. However, the electoral model is proposing that there would be an electoral college made up of certain members who are already elected, okay, who are the ones that will actually choose who from that pool is elected. So not the direct election, but actually a few people choosing that. So I would let Nkiru do the complex breakdown in terms of the specifics of that. But in layperson's terms, instead of direct election, we're now going to have indirect elections through an electoral college that I will say will be made up of many men. Nkiru, over to you.
That's good, because how you said complex, because even you trying to explain it from a layman's perspective, I was confused, like, wait, what? And then you hit the nail on the head saying that the Electoral College would consist of men. Are we not, and I'm saying this, I'm not even trying to be funny, but are we not trying to get out of under men, so to speak? But I think, yes, I'll hand over to Nkiru, because I was in a during this event in December, and I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, we're fighting such a huge battle. It feels like we're fighting, again, please, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, a losing battle, because what is going on? Because I think it was December the 8th that everybody was like, yeah, it's going to be passed today. And we were at the Governor's Spouses Forum where we heard, oh, they said they've postponed it. And I remember having a sinking feeling within me. Then to hear about the Electoral College, I was like, what is all this just because you don't want to pass a bill? Like, if you want to come out and say, I know you pass a bill, just say it with your full chest. Sorry, what's all this going round and round and round in circles? But yes, Nkiru, over to you. Please explain this to me, because I'm not understanding. And from the looks of things, Ambassador doesn't even understand this thing.
I understand. So, but when we come back and talk about hopefully pros and cons, we can also,
that's that. But it's like, if you yourself, you're having difficulty in even accepting the terms and conditions of it, trying to cascade it down to other people would be really, really difficult. But yes, over to you, Nkiru. Please explain what this electoral college model is.
Okay. I think Abosede, I think you started off correctly. It's an indirect election system for electing members of a body. And I know when people hear Electoral College, I'm sure they think of the US Electoral College used for their presidential elections, but this is quite different because when it comes to election and methods of electing representatives or political office holders, every country designs a system that fits their context. So this electoral college model is designed uniquely for the Nigerian context. So I think I'm going to start by saying, because you said something about Fumi, you mentioned something about like getting the sense that there was a reluctance to pass the bill. And yes, I'll be lying if I didn't say there's not been pushback. There's been no pushback on this bill. There's been pushback, and all of us doing advocacy on this will agree that it's really been difficult, even convincing people to support a temporary special measure, a constitutional amendment proposal to get more women in National Assembly. I'm happy that now I think there's a general consensus that there's a representation problem. But I think the mechanism and the method for addressing that is where, should I say, we don't really have great consensus yet. So initially, when the special seats bill was introduced, the method for electing these women. So for those who are just hearing about this for the first time, the special seats bill is a constitutional alteration bill that aims to increase the number of women in the National Assembly and the State Houses of Assembly. And I think in the beginning, I think I had some statistics. We have only 4 women in the Senate, 17 in House of Reps, 54 women in the State Assembly, and we have about 14 or 15 states with no women. So the representation gap is really, really wide. Nigeria is at the bottom when it comes to ranking of women in parliament. So this bill is basically a legislative, a constitutional measure to solve this problem. It's a temporary special measure because the intention is to provide like this mechanism for more women to come in, to contest and come in for a period. And hopefully within that period, it can help women build their useful skills and resources they need to actually compete for regular seats. And the proposal was to create special seats for women in each state. So at the House of Reps level, 1 woman, or rather 1 special seat per state, making it 37, then 1 for the FCT. Then for the Senate, the plan was to have zonal seats. Initially, when the campaign started, we're gunning for 1 woman per state for Senate. But, when the bill went through several changes, we landed at a zonal model. And then at the State Assembly, the plan was to have 3 per state. So in the 9th Assembly, I think the total was about 111, and then now that drops to 108. So now total, we're at 157. If this works, we'll be having 157 additional women. And I think that's a very useful number because you actually need critical mass of women in representative bodies to, bring about some kind of shift or change on women issues. Now, what has happened is that this model where citizens or the electorate would be able to go to the polling booth and vote for these women, that model has changed. And I think it's important to understand the context or the reason why this changed. So this bill is part of several constitutional amendment bills. The National Assembly is doing a constitution. There's a constitutional review process going on in the National Assembly. There are several bills. We've heard about state police, which was just passed recently. So the special seats bill for women is just one of those bills. There are over 30 bills up for consideration. So the plan initially, or rather our expectation, was that this process will be concluded maybe late last year. But what happened was the process has not been concluded. Votes have not happened. And the plan was that when this is passed, to go to states, we'll move to the states, do advocacy, we'll get the states to pass it, send it to the president, and this legislation will be in place before the 2027 elections. What has happened now is that this proposal has been overtaken by time. Our advocacy has been overtaken by time. Yep. So the National Assembly still has not voted on this bill. So this goes beyond, we're not sure whether they want it or not. This is a process, that has gone beyond its initial calendar. And then to make matters worse, INEC released election calendar for January. And then parties, politicians, left everything and went into primaries. So nobody was talking about constitution. Nobody was talking about special seats bill. And I think that's the reality of something we have to understand about constitutional reform, is that they rarely proceed in a straight line. And the prevailing context or the political environment is a very huge factor that influences, the progress of how fast a proposal moves. So that was what informed this change, because what has now happened is that primaries are over. Election is coming up in January. And I think what happened was that when the primaries finished, and then, of course, I'm sure we all saw the results from the primaries, it was, I tried to use the word bloodbath, but somebody said, oh, it's not that serious.
You're correct, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah. Although you have been too dramatic, but it was terrible. I mean, a lot of women in National Assembly now are not coming back. They don't have tickets to come back. It's really, really bad. So what we are seeing is the 11th Assembly is going to have probably even a worse record. Yep. So this is kind of an alternative. This Electoral College model is coming as an alternative, like a fix. Okay, what do we do to see if women can still be part of 2027? And I think what the committee now suggested was, okay, instead of making women go through primaries and run on the ballots, primaries is over, why don't we change it and do Electoral College where sitting representatives elect the woman? So who are these Electoral College members? Or just elected legislators everywhere at the federal, state, and local government level. So we're talking about our senators, our House of Reps members, and our councillors at the local government level. And that is why also they said is male dominated, because it is male dominated. That's just the reality. So it's not as if like an Electoral College was created and men were injected. It's the unfortunate reality that the women are still going to be subject to the same challenges that they have. Even with the primaries is still male dominated. So for those who support the measure, this is the argument. Women still got a bad deal. They still had to negotiate and compete with men in primaries, and lots of them got a bad deal. So Electoral College is still the same thing. But for them, they are looking at the bigger goal or objective of getting more women in. So that's where they're coming in. If not, we'll have to wait till 2031. That's the next yes, that's what's probably going to happen. So I think for supporters of this model, it's like, okay, what can we gain in this period while looking forward to a bigger outcome? But then again, let me not jump into the pros and cons. But of course, I totally agree with Abosede. There are serious concerns about elite capture. There are serious concerns about citizens not being involved in electing their reps. So I think I'm going to stop there for now.
I'm just going. Thank you so much, Nkiru. Like, I feel like you know how you have good cop, bad cop. I feel like, and this is Abosede was not bad cop at all. Like the government is the bad cop, or what we have on ground is bad cop, and you're trying to make us understand that, okay, this is what it is. I sort of understand. Whether I agree with him and that matter entirely. I think we have a call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, no, we lost the call. The number to call 07000 09155 if you wanna, give a comment or contribute to this conversation. We're just gonna jump right into the pros and cons. Abosede, are you for, or are you against, or are you saying, you know what, this is the, how they say that thing, this is the hand we've been dealt. We might as well just make do with it.
You know what? This might be a controversial opinion, but I am definitely for. I'm pro. I'm pro Electoral College. And the reason is really simple. Do we want the chambers filled with men only, or do we want women in the chambers? Because what Nkiru has not even mentioned is that there is a greater concern about the fact that at the party level, this process would be, would be interfered with, and they're saying people, because it's men, that they will bring their wives, their significant others, their daughters, do you know what? To be honest, I don't really care. As far as they're female, I don't mind. Because you see, what the evidence, by the time you get into that chamber, and they're telling you that women die every 8 minutes from childbirth, I don't care whether you're the daughter or you're the wife. There is something about a woman being able to relate with that situation that a chamber filled with men can never relate to.
Sorry to
So
interrupt you. We have another call. Network doesn't want me to be great today. Please keep trying. Or you can send a voice note, a WhatsApp message, or a text message to 0703 1756 537 08155 917 917. Please send a text, send a WhatsApp message or a voice note, because each time I pick up the call, it keeps cutting. But yes, sorry, go ahead.
yes. So I'm definitely pro. And again, just to reemphasize that as far as you are female, because the chamber just needs diversity. All right. Now, would our preference be capable, competent, and women of character? Absolutely. But minimum requirement, female. That's where I stand, honestly speaking, because the cost of exclusion is too high. And I don't think we can afford, to Nkiru's point, another 4 years or whatever of that cost of exclusion. So even if it's their whatever they are bringing, their daughters, anybody, let them shall be there as far as they are female. That diversity, I believe, will yield some results while we work on all the other parameters that ensure that the women who emerge through this process are the best of the best. That's where I stand.
Thank you so much for that. Nkiru, I'm back to you. So what safeguards are going to be in place to
You need to
ensure?
ask Nkiru she's pro for or against, though. She has to answer.
What safeguards will need to be in place to ensure transparency and fairness? Because I mean, when you ask the ordinary Nigerian, the average Nigerian, if they're voting, there's such a huge level or deep level of voter apathy when it comes to voting, elections, and what have you. But now, with regards because people are bothered about transparency and fairness, especially after the 2023 elections, right? What's the assurance basically that this will be free and fair, it will be transparent, because these are legitimate concerns to have?
Okay. So
Are you for or against?
I mean, where
Yes,
else?
yes.
I am pro anything. I'm pro more women in the National Assembly, because to be honest, I mean, I have worked with the National Assembly for more than 10 years. So I have been on the sidelines, I've had courtyard seats to legislative work, committee meetings. And I know for a fact, not from being told, I know the challenges that come from women not being in the room. I have sat in spaces and meetings where decisions or conversations about women are taking place, decisions are being made for women, and women are absent.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we really need to fix. So initially, I mean, it was difficult for me to swallow, I have to be honest, as an advocate. But I understood where this was coming from, because if this process had concluded last year, we will not be discussing an electoral college model. We will not be having this conversation. It will be, what we have been fighting for is getting the required number, the 2/3 majority. That would have been our focus. But now the advocacy has changed. The focus has changed. It's, like you said, cascading this new model, explaining it to people, making people understand, and also securing buy-in and support. Because to be honest, I have met people, even women in the struggle, who have said, I think this is where I think I'm done. I can't push it. Like, I'm tired. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've met people like that. So I would say that I support the objective of more women in the National Assembly. My preference would have been for those women to be directly elected. Absolutely. Because it gives them the clearest democratic mandate, but that is not feasible. That's just the reality. And in advocacy, you have to, set smart goals. You have to know when your goals are no longer realistic, and then adjust accordingly. So the Electoral College model is what the politicians feel is more feasible. And I do not think that we should abandon the reform entirely, because it is not our preferred model. So I support it moving forward. The only thing I'll say is that it has to be properly designed. And I think that takes me to your question. It has to be properly designed, because so you have the constitutional alteration that sets out this framework for an electoral college model that needs to pass. And then the bill now states that the National Assembly has to pass an act that sets out, that fleshes out this electoral college model. So what I mean is in terms of the voting, the nomination, because political parties will still need to nominate, the women will still have to campaign, there will still have to be rules on voting, on quorum, there has to be, for the Senate seats, that's only 6, there has to be rules on rotation, because the Senate seats are going to rotate with each electoral cycle. So like for instance, in 2027, the first 12 states will take their turn. In 2031, the next 12 states will take their turn, and it goes like that until we complete it. So you have, those rules have to be there to protect it from early capture. I'm not saying that, we're going to find a mechanism or a method that is foolproof, or a safeguard that is foolproof. But I think for those of us engaging and advocating for this, it's really important for us to actually pay attention and be vigilant on these rules or these safeguards, because the constitutional proposal has said that the National Assembly has to pass a subsequent law, and INEC, I think, will also have to make guidelines. So the voting procedure, the rest of it, the nomination process, all that, I think, is something we really need to pay attention to make sure that the women who are going through this process get some kind of fair chance, and there's a sort of credibility in the process. So that for me, that's where the safeguard is coming in. But I believe that ultimately you need more numbers. Honestly, critical mass is such a big thing. I don't think people really get it. With 4 women in the Senate, you really can't do much. But sometimes I hear people saying, the people that are there, what are they doing? 4 in a group of 109 and 17 in a group of 360. Yeah. Like, let's be realistic. You need critical mass. Yes. And for me, I feel that's what this model will do. When you have more women, then I think the women can mobilize better. You have more numbers to push, or to even push for the model to be altered. Exactly. So for me, yes. So for me, I see it as like an potential incremental gain.
Well, thank you so much for that. I was going to ask you a final question, Nkiru, on what success would look like for this reform. I think you already nailed it. That critical mass is what success would look like. So my final question for Ambassador before we round off is, if implemented, what impact could this have on women's political participation ahead of future elections? Because, I mean, at the bottom of it, or at the top of it, is that we need more women. What would this look like for us?
I mean, first of all, I think, as Nkiru has said, we will immediately, and let's do a scenario play of current situation. Out of 109 seats right now, we have 4 women, right? So if this happened and you added 12 seats, right, to that immediately, for example, and you had 100 and whatever that number is, you would immediately have 16 women. Right? Do you see what I'm trying to say? And it's 16 of so we are currently at below 5%. So we're not even talking double digits, right? And then House of Reps, where we have 360 seats. Just imagine having 37 women added to the 17, right? Just even the look of our chamber, because for me, even that role model piece about who you see representing you is super important. And then at the state level, we even have much more, because now it's 3 seats per state. All right. So I think for me, the immediate look of our legislature changes. That's what we talk about when we say we need to change the face of leadership. All right. So who represents you shifts. Just think about the news rounds and who is on the news and who you can ask questions, who is in committees, as Nkiru said. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So for the people who don't support, and as Nkiru said, some people, this is where they've drawn the line. They're like, this is a loss. We're done. It's over. Nigeria doesn't care about women. But definitely for those of us who have faith, it's just this incremental gain that we see as a potential win. And like I said, I am super convinced that as a human woman, that's as far as you're a human and you're a woman, there's some issues that if they are brought to just your awareness, you will act differently than a man would act or react. And for me, that is a major win. So in terms of your question, for me, that immediate change in the numbers that could potentially get us to double digits, because as Nkiru said, when you look at the Interparliamentary Union ranking, we're right there at the bottom. And I think we're collectively embarrassed as a nation. You see what I mean? So that's a good thing.
I think that everybody's embarrassed.
No, trust me, we are collectively embarrassed, because when they go to these meetings with a male delegation and the one woman, they ask them questions, because everybody knows that Nigeria is the most populous Black nation, and that half the population are women. So it's a known fact. So the question they'll be asking is it that you people don't have women? So it's a known fact. So I think we're collectively embarrassed. And I think this at least will cover our shame to a certain degree. And I'm definitely all for that. With all the concerns that Nkiru has raised, the legitimacy, the elite capture, the fact that it's men that are going to decide the same destiny of women. I hear everybody. But the truth is, what potential gain can be in the short term, and to Nkiru's point, let them enter there and go and make sure that we reverse it and do it properly. But we need a critical mass to be able to do that.
Thank you so much, ladies. We've come to the end. I know Ambassador has to go. I wish we could continue, but thank you so much. I'm hoping that you would both come back again as we keep our eyes peeled, on this big conversation to have. I really like what Ambassador said about there are matters that only a woman can understand, right? Matters affecting women, the vulnerable people, like top to bottom, only women will understand. And that's not to say that men can't understand, but it's different.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, if you've never been pregnant and had a baby, you cannot understand, even if you were in the labor.
Thank you so much, ladies. This is a conversation that we can't stop here with this conversation. We'll continue it. And like the ladies have promised live on air, they're going to come back to continue this conversation. Thank you so much, ladies. And do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Okay. This is Women 1.7 FM, the voice of women. And it's been such a great conversation to have about the Electoral College model and if this is the new pathway for women representation in governance generally. Our eyes are still peeled onto this. You already know we'll bring the correct information to you. But until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember that democracy only works best when we hold every level of government accountable. I'm your host, Olufemi. Up next is the news at 12.